welcome back to Security Noise after summer off here. This is the Hacker Summer Camp recap episode. We have senior consultants David Boyd and Whitney Phillips here to join us today. They were both there at DEFCON and Black Hat, so they'll give us the skinny on what was there. Also, David spoke, and so he will share a little bit about his presentation. I do have one kind of infosec in case you missed it. One of the Black Hat presentations was about phishing, and I'm sure David will have thoughts, so I want to get his about this. But a researcher, Ariana Miriana, I probably totally botched the name there, so I do apologize for that. Also over at Census, published some research that basically phishing doesn't work. You know, the kind of conclusion was that whoever controls what was the term that was used? The lures, which makes sense, pretty much controls the results. So, you know, if you do a kind of basic phishing exercise for your organization that's using off-the-shelf stuff, people generally don't fall for it. If you do a really tailored phishing for the organization, where you are sending emails about the product that the company actually sells or the services it performs, you tend to get a really, really high phishing failure rate. So depending on what the objectives of the phishing exercise are, as far as whether you want to show a high failure rate to make an argument that you need better email security, or want to show a lower failure rate to show how effective your security program is, those are the results you get. So that's been obviously, creating a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth out there on both ends of it from various contractors and from CIOs out there. And that has been kind of the noise over the past week. David, what are your thoughts on that? Or did you actually hear or read the presentation at all?
So I didn't catch that presentation, but that brings to light a couple interesting points where when you're performing any sort of social engineering exercise, you're testing two things. You're testing the controls that you have in place that are there to protect the environment, and you're protecting the user behavior, how are users going to react when they're presented with whatever this issue may be, whether it's a phone call or an email phish. At the end of the day, you can have all the controls in place that you want, and you can make sure that you've got great spam filters and your firewalls are set up correctly and everything else. But if you are not training your users correctly to be able to identify something that looks off or smells off, then a lot of times what social engineers are doing is they're developing a rapport and a relationship with their target. So they're going in and they're having conversational, back and forth with whoever it might be over the course of, it might be several days or even several weeks, so that they've spent time developing this rapport and building this up. And then they go, hey, we have this form I need you to fill out, or I have this thing I need you to run for me real quick, or whatever. At that point, you've built up enough of a trust with your target that they don't feel like it's unusual for them to go, oh, yeah, I can run that, or, oh, yeah, I'll type that command in for you, whatever it is. Leading back to your point about how, is phishing not that effective because people are just looking for wins or points. From our perspective, I would disagree. We still get a lot of very effective information out of all aspects of social engineering. It's still very much a very good avenue as an initial access point into a customer's environment. And it's a very good test to how not only are your controls working, but how is the training you're doing of your users working.
Okay. So that's a pretty solid defense of doing phishing exercises. And obviously, you did mention as an initial foothold, so there's certainly a lot of value still in it from a perspective of red teaming and those types of efforts. That makes sense to me. I guess we'll watch and see how this debate continues on. With that, I guess we will pivot to the actual topic of the show today. I'll give David and Whitney each a chance to introduce themselves and maybe start us off with what you were hoping to see at DEFCON this year or Black Hat, and why you decided to go out and if it was a good experience.
Whitney, I'll let you go first.
All right, thanks. Well, I'm a security consultant here at Trusted Sec. A couple of weeks back, I had gotten asked if I wanted to go out to DEFCON and Black Hat, and I've done DEFCON and Black Hat a couple of times, but not with the group of Trusted Sec team. So it was kind of nice because I was able to meet a huge group of people that I haven't met in the last 3 years, or haven't met at all in the last 3 years that I've worked here. So it was definitely a good team bonding experience. I got to explore the floor of Black Hat, and it was a little overwhelming. I don't know if you've ever been to a Chicago auto show. The vendor floor was basically the same size as the Chicago auto show itself, vendor, like endless rows of vendors. And I thought that was actually pretty neat that I know it's not like your traditional hacker conference, but it just is like kind of showing how big security has gotten as a whole, just from how many applications, how many vendors we have out there and access to. And then I also did DEFCON to see Boyd talk, and then Kevin Clark also spoke, I think 3 or 4 times. I can't remember. But yeah, that was also a completely different DEFCON experience. I'm used to it. It stretched across 3 different venues, and this time it was in the, what was the venue, Dave?
So DEFCON took place at the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Yeah, so it was huge, and it was 3 floors of a hacker conference, and it was insanely spaced out. So kind of nice that we didn't have to run between different casinos, but at the same time, it was also way bigger than what I expected in years past.
Now, were all the ATMs just out of order again this year?
I didn't actually see any. I don't know. Were there any? Did you see any?
There were a few, and they were working, but they were also heavily surrounded with lots of cameras. And with this being, Las Vegas and stuff, I'm sure they were very well monitored.
For sure.
Dave, do you have any more to add?
Yeah, no, it was great. It'd been a couple of years since I'd been back to DEF CON, so seeing it at the convention center was really cool. I thought it was a great venue. It was nice, like Whitney said, having everything right there being a convention center the size of a small city. But it did make it easier to get around and to be able to navigate the different talks and kind of see the different sites in the vendor area and everything. It's very well run. They do a great job. This is what, almost 3 decades now of how long it's been running. So they've certainly ironed out a lot of the kinks and stuff. And it's a great time. It's a great time to see friends in the hacker space and in the hacker community, meet a lot of big name folks for the first time, see a lot of friendly faces, and then of course do a little hacking. One thing that's always stood out to me at every DEF CON that I've been to is at any time, at anywhere in the conference, you might see just a group of people huddled around a laptop or just kind of sitting on the floor with their laptops open. And they might be doing a CTF, they might be doing something a little shady. It's DEF CON. It's all in good fun. It's really neat. It's really neat to see those kind of like breakout, folks doing that sort of thing. And they're always friendly. They're always willing to tell you what they're working on. They're always willing to welcome you in, kind of show you what they're doing. I've never been turned away when I went up. Hey, man, what you working on there? That looks cool. It's always real fun. Yeah, come here. Let me show you this neat thing I'm doing, or this neat bypass, or this hack, or whatever. So,
all right. Well, that was a couple of interesting things I heard in there. Now, I know they got away from it a few years ago, but historically, DEF CON was a strictly cash affair. So that's why the ATMs get turned off, because everybody would just empty them. And I think that was the whole reason for Vegas in the first place, is because the casinos had the cash handling capacity to make a lot of that work. Do you still see most people buying tickets in cash, or is it probably
registered? I think, David, did you stand in line for the badge?
I did. Yeah, I did the cash line. Yeah. Only because I forgot to pre-reg. They did have a pre-reg line this year, which I thought was really, really smart. They've typically shied away from that for privacy reasons and security concerns and things like that. But I did the line con, and we were bouncing the beach ball.
I think the biggest disappointment for a lot of people was the badges didn't come on time. So if you were standing in line, you got a paper badge, and not the new one. And then I'll even show the badge. I pulled it up. So this is the new badge for this year. But a lot of people kind of were disappointed because it wasn't like a actual digital badge. It's just normal plastic.
So are those color filters?
Yeah, they're color filters. I don't know if there was a puzzle in it or not.
Wonder if there was like some, hidden text or something you were supposed to read with those somewhere.
There were some little 3D images around the conference, and it was sort of like a pseudo CTF, I believe. I didn't quite go down that rabbit hole. It was a little disappointing not having the nice blinky, electronic badges like they'd had in the past. Those are always kind of cool in a collector's item, and kind of neat to mess with the PCB boards and stuff in those. And then you get the SAOs, the bad word add-ons. Those are always fun, and you can kind of link them into your badge. So, but it was still a cool badge. I'm not knocking it. But, here's hoping next year we go back to the nice electronic blinky badges.
Yeah, I remember the, might have been like 23 or something. They had the vinyl records or the plastic records as they may have been. And I remember everybody was mad because there was like, who's got a tone arm and a needle, to even see what's on this thing right here in Vegas. But yeah.
I will say the vendor area was spread out way better than it has in past because they know the Hack 5 vendor, there's always like it's always just like this long line, and they finally like kind of spread it out so they could actually stand in line. It wasn't just this pile of people trying to get to the Hack 5 like booth. And then I will say I did spend $20 on a personal pan pizza, which made me sad. So that was the only problem I think too, was like the food situation. It was harder to leave the conference and just go grab a bite and come back, whereas like like when it was at the Flamingo, you could just go down that little row of restaurants and grab food and then come back to the conference.
So how far away was the convention center from like the main strip?
I think it was like a 10-minute Uber from MGM.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it wasn't
So
on
ways
the
out.
strip. Yeah, so I think it was about 10 minutes.
Yeah, you'd want to taxi or Uber or take the tram to get back to the main.
We had to
main
speed
hub.
race to Boyd's talk because I kept pushing him. I'm like, hey guy, like there's only a few more minutes
Yeah.
left. We should probably leave to go get to your
Right.
talk.
So overall, for folks who maybe have sat out a few DEF CONs now, like myself, has the move to the convention center, would you say it's a better experience than the past, or you miss the casino atmosphere? How's it go?
It's hard because it's more of like a traditional conference feel. I don't feel like it had that same dark kind of grungy hacker conference feel. It's so big now. Like I was running into people in the hallway still, just trying to get by. In the village area I think the village area is like tripled in size. I guess I'm so used to like my small conference in Grand Rapids. Like it feels home and comfortable, where like this one, it's impossible. You have to like kind of just pick something that you want to do and stick with that area and try not to worry about the fact that you can't hit everything at all in that conference. Like,
Yeah,
That's always, I was going to say, that's always been the key to DEF CON, I thought, was, identify the talks ahead of time that you really want to attend, and then, plan some time in the villages and stuff around that.
Yeah, I like what Whitney was saying. It's still DEF CON, and maybe this is because a lot of the hackers have gotten older and families and things like that. There's no telling, but a lot of the underground grunge, kind of raw, stick it to the man, punk rock feel, has kind of floated away as time has gone on. It's lost a little bit of that grungy underground punk rock. And it's I hate to say that it's grown up a little more, but it feels like it's kind of grown up a little more. It's still very much DEF CON. There's still very much shenanigans and antics and all kinds of crazy hacks. I know there was that one that came out that gave the CISA a bit of trouble, Microsoft a bit of trouble. That was very interesting from Dirk Jan. If you haven't seen that, you should go look it up. It's very, very cool research that he did there. So you still get cool stuff like that, which is nice.
Well, you can't just tease something like that, David, and not give us a thumbnail sketch, at least. While David looks that up, Whitney, was there any particular talk that you found interesting, couldn't get into because it was so well attended, that was disappointing, or anything like that?
I only did a couple talks, but I did make sure to see both Kevin and David speak, and they both did quite well. This was David's first time speaking at DEF CON, and it was I could feel his nervousness. I did it 2 years ago, and you kind of put this unnecessary like pressure on you to, this is like what is it, like an end game, like a bucket list item to be able to talk at DEF CON. And so it was kind of fun seeing on the other side. I'm like, yeah, I was there a couple of years ago. But Dave did really well on his talk. And then Kevin did a demo with another guy from a different work or a different place. And he did awesome as well. So
You had mentioned that Kevin did like 4 talks or something this year.
I know. I made it to 2 of them. So,
Oh, man.
yes. And it's so hard. Like, it's almost like, do you want to watch talks or do you want to hang out in the villages? So I hung out in the village. I helped the new associates lockpick. We did lockpicking village, and that is just like time slips away while you're there. So like you look down and you're like, oh, it's already 3 or 4 o'clock. But yeah.
So no new amazing web hacking techniques
No.
to share with us.
No, I hear James
Come on,
Tuttle.
Whitney.
I hear James Tuttle talked.
And you didn't go?
No, I wouldn't be able to get into that line.
I don't know. I've never had a problem getting into his talks at DEF CON, but and he's quite personable. He's fun to meet in person, shake his hand afterward, and chat with. So next time.
Next time.
What about you, David?
The coolest thing, like Whitney said, I've spoken at several other conferences, but for some reason, it felt like DEF CON added like a little bit of legitimacy to me as a hacker, you know? Oh, I finally spoke at DEF CON. So it made me kind of nervous, you know? I was a little nervous, I'll admit, but it was really cool and it really stuck out to me was all the Trusted Tech folks that were there, you know, showed up for me in a big way. They were in the audience, you know, they were hanging out with me, they were supporting me. And that meant the absolute world to me. Like that just, I mean, you know, I got a little misty eyed when I saw everybody out in the audience. And I was like, man, this really is like the coolest company ever because, you know, those folks showed up. They've heard my talks before. They didn't have to, but they took time out of their day to come and support me. And that really meant the world. And the talk seemed like it was well received. So, you know, I can, like what he said, it's like bucket list. Now I can say, hey, man, I spoke at DEF CON. That's cool. And I definitely want to do it again. So I'm absolutely going to submit again and again.
It's funny because we had a signal going with the group, and I don't think you didn't turn your notifications off. So your pocket was vibrating the whole time. We were just blowing up the signal about how long the line was for Dave's talk. And we were like, hey guy, hey, guess what? It's wrapped around the room.
That was for the other guy. That wasn't for me. That was for the guy.
No, it was totally for you. It was waiting. They were waiting for your talk. They all filed in afterwards. So that we just kept like pushing that. And I think we were on our way to the talk because I was his bully basically of making sure that he got there. I was like, do you want to hear this right now or later? He's like, or just see it. He's like, what? I was like, there's a really long line for your talk already. And he's like, don't tell me that.
I appreciate everybody that came out. That was very, very humbling to say the least. It meant the world to me, and I hope I didn't disappoint. But it was incredible to see everybody out there. Like that was amazing.
David, why don't you take a couple of minutes here, or maybe even 5 if you want, and tell us a little bit about your talk, the highlights, maybe the biggest things people want to take away. I mean, I know they can watch it on the internet later, or, you know, DEF CON media server and all that, but give us the rundown, man.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I appreciate that, Geoff. Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, so, you know, it's funny you mentioned social engineering because that's what my talk was on. And it was around how AI is interceding all of our job descriptions, right? Geoff, you're in web apps, Skyler, Whitney, you know, web apps and mobiles. And more now, we're seeing, you know, AI, the big scary AI, weave its way in, not only from a defensive perspective, but also from an offensive perspective, right? We're starting to adopt using it just a little bit more here and there, you know, to help kind of tweak our code a little bit, or to help, you know, this or that, or to help problem solve. So, you know, my talk was related around that, around how social engineers can utilize different AI tools to, you know, kind of help bridge the gap between the human and the technical element. So you're able to utilize things like ChatGPT, for instance, and have it break down a psychological profile of your target. If you feed it enough information about your target, their hobbies, their interests, what you found on LinkedIn and Facebook, you know, where they're working, how old they are, and things like that, you can have it kind of give you a psychological breakdown. And okay, if I wanted to sell to this person, if I wanted to talk to this person on the level, you know, what's the best way to do that, right? So it was different things. It was related around different things like that. And a couple of key points that I wanted to make is that, especially when it comes to social engineering, what makes social engineering so effective is the human element, is us, right? The human voice, the human personality, the inflections and tones and warmth and things that we pour into whatever element of social engineering it is. That AI will never be able to replace. It'll get close, sure, but AI will never replace a good hacker or a good social engineer. And I will stand by that as long as I work in this field. AI is a tool, and it can certainly help. And if you utilize it well, it can help you very, very effectively. but it cannot replace you, and it's not going to replace your job. And I also, kind of warn people that you don't want to become over-reliant on it, because then you lose some of that human element that makes social engineering so effective in the first place.
Very interesting. One quick question for you. Do you think the whole uncanny valley thing actually hurts some social engineering efforts when you use AI?
Give me a breakdown of that.
The uncanny valley, the idea that, when something is intended to look real, but it just doesn't quite get there. You kind of can't tell what's wrong with it, but you can viscerally tell it's not really a person, or it's not really a real voice. And it just makes you question, kind of heightens your senses and makes you question everything that you're hearing from it, or it's trying to communicate to you.
I feel like that can actually, so if you over rely on it, that's one of the aspects where it can hurt you. If your email's too perfect, if it's too robotic, or if your phone vish, if the voice on the other end of the line has just dead perfect, inflections and the way they talk, and they're not pausing, and everything just sounds too crisp and clean and filtered.
Never stumbles over a word.
Never stumbles. No, ums or clearing their throat or stuff. Then people are going to pick up on that. People are going to pick up on the perfections, right? It's the same thing in the art world, right? A lot of artists right now are struggling because it's so easy to do AI art, and they're feeling that the imperfections, which I agree with, the imperfections that are in art, in hand-drawn art and computer-generated art and things made by humans, are going to be far and away better, and that's what makes that so special, right? When you look at a human-crafted fish, for instance, as opposed to a purely AI crafted fish, a keen eye can identify, like, something's off about that. That just seems a little odd, right? When you look at something like AI voice cloning, which is very popular, it's starting to become a very popular attack. It is extremely effective at getting around voice-based protections in a lot of instances. However, to a human ear, you can tweak that and work on that all day long, but there's always going to be something that's just a little off still that people are going to pick up on, as opposed to a computer. So I think, in a roundabout way, in answer to your question, I think the uncanny valley is actually helpful to social engineers. Those imperfections, those super perfections, people can pick up on because they don't have the human imperfection element of it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Well, I just ran into something on X. It was somebody doing like a joke, like human resource reel, about how they failed a phishing test because they were saying that there was a company party and it was Chipotle, and you need to fill out your information for the Chipotle order and stuff like that. I'm like, I guess I probably would fail definitely a Chipotle phishing test. Like, please,
Too good an offer to pass up.
free food? Yes. Told you I'm food motivated.
We are running out of time here, so since things have changed a little bit, and you guys were just there, maybe some quick kind of do's and don'ts for getting the most out of it, having a good time at DEFCON, and we'll leave on that note.
Do's, I would say at least watch one talk, go through the village, but I also went with a group of my coworkers, so it was kind of hard because I'm like, oh, I want to do all the things, but then I also wanted to make sure that I spent time with people that I work with every single day, and I get to see them physically in person. So it's just trying to find a balance of what you should do. Like, how much time do you want to spend, like, sitting in all those talks, or do you get more benefit sitting in a village with your coworkers, having a conversation, or lock picking? And then don'ts would be stretching yourself thin on the conference, knowing when you can, you're not going to see everything. You should go have dinner with them, go have dinner with your friends and have a good time instead of stressing about not hitting every single talk. It most likely will be depending on the content of the talk, maybe either put out there like later on, or you can catch it in a different conference.
Okay. David?
Yeah. Echoing a lot of what Whitney was saying, it's very easy in a big conference like this, and especially if you do back-to-back with Black Hat and DEFCON, it's very easy to get FOMO, right? You feel like you got to run around and see all the things and do all the things and get all the things, and you can very quickly overwhelm yourself because it's a lot. I've been to Vegas several times, and it's still a lot, even for me. It's better to just kind of chill, just get in there, and kind of have an idea of what you want to do and see, but don't feel like you have to do and see everything, right? The lines for talks are sometimes 2 or 3 talks behind. So there'll be a line forming for a talk an hour or two before the talk has even started. So don't feel so pressured. Like if it's a must-see talk, plan around that, make that part of your day. But go to the villages for sure, like Whitney was saying. Even the villages that you have no interest in or have never even seen before. If you've never done car hacking, go through the car hacking village. Just kind of wander in there and look around. You'd be surprised what you'd see and what you can learn. Go in the web app, one. Go in the social engineering village. These are all folks that are very, very passionate about their part of the craft. And they'd love to teach you and show you some stuff. And there's always some neat things in there. And there's a lot of CTS and stuff going on. So definitely do that. And don't feel like you can't talk to folks, especially in InfoSec. There's this I hate to call it click, feeling or celebrity status to some folks. But everyone that I've ever met, there's not a single person that will come up when you come up and you want to say hi or whatever, that's going to be like, I'm too good to talk to you. Most of the hackers are going to be very open. They're going to want to talk to you. Maybe they're rushing off to a talk or something, but they're going to want to talk. They're going to want to share. I mean, that's what hacking is, right? It's sharing of information. It's learning. It's being curious. So feel like you can go up and talk to folks. There's a lot to do, and it's impossible to do all of it. Just try to go in there and have fun, and expect the unexpected.
Yeah, I always kind of come from a conference. So my goal is to at least have one new friend or networking person or somebody new that I've met.
Okay. Well, I want to thank both of our guests for joining us today, and I want to thank all of you for listening. Security Noise is a production of Trusted Sec LLC. If you or your organization have any questions or needs with information security, go to www.trustedsec.com. We'll see you next time.